Here's a sample of what you'll hear on this episode of Natural Health Matters.
If you're someone who's trying to make fitness a permanent part of your life, then one thing that you need to know going into it is that there's nothing about making fitness a priority in your life that means you have to be perfect. And if that's what you can't strive for that, because we're human and we're going to make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen all the time. Whenever you fail, that doesn't end your fitness journey. That doesn't end your goal. What you have to remember is it's what you do next that counts. So failing's part of your fitness story, fitness journey. It doesn't have to stop you. It doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond and how you get back on track.
Welcome to the Natural Health Matters podcast, where it's all about maximizing your health potential so that you can pursue the abundant life more effectively. I'm your host, David Sandstrom, naturopathic doctor and biblical health coach, and this is episode number 73. Today we have on the show Chad Austin. Chad is the owner of Priority Fitness in Overland Park, Kansas, and is the best-selling and award-winning author of the book series, Make Fitness a Priority. Chad helps his clients to stop constantly starting over so they can improve their quality of life with long-term fitness success. Chad, welcome to Natural Health Matters.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to talk with you. This is a really good topic because I don't know a single person that's tried to get in shape and lost, been motivated for a couple of weeks, lost interest, and go back into their old lifestyle. So you're an expert in not only fitness, but helping people stay with it for the long term. And I know you wrote some books on that topic. So tell me about your inspiration for the book. Why did you write your book series?
When I wrote my first book, Make Fitness a Priority, How to Win the Fight Against Your Excuses, I'd been kind of circling around. I wanted to make more of an impact, and I knew I was going to write about fitness and have been getting long-term success. But to get direction, I did a poll, and my poll question online was just, what are your top priorities in life? And I asked as many people as I could this question. And the top answers were always family and career. And sometimes faith was a popular answer too, but family and career were always the top ones, but never anyone said health and fitness. It was like the last thing, and no one ever said it after everyone I asked. And it was mind blowing to me. And after a little more research, I've done a lot of research on this now, and I just kind of realized that fitness in our minds is always the thing we plan to get to later.
Right.
Like as life's changes happen and as we have to keep adapting to change, we're really good at adapting to change when it comes to our family, our career, our faith. We're terrible at adapting to it when it comes to our fitness. So in our minds, fitness is always the thing we're going to get to later when we think we're going to be less busy and have more time. And the sad thing is that just that day never comes. And so we just have to learn that even though we're busy and we have all these challenges and obstacles we face every day, we can still make fitness a priority right now. And if we choose to do that, we can make our lives better.
Absolutely. That really strikes a chord with me because, I believe that we should be living the abundant life. And I've met very few people that I would say are really living the life that they were designed for, that purpose-driven life. And fitness is a big part of that. If you're struggling with a health issue, you don't have the energy to face your day, you're not sleeping well, or you're dealing with aches and pains or some type of digestive issue, these are going to really distract you from living life to the fullest. And I love what you said about it not being urgent. I think it was Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said, the funny thing is the urgent things in life tend to not be so important. And the important things in life tend to not be so urgent. So you're trying to flip that around and say, let's make this a priority so that we can enjoy our lives more fully. Am I right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's like we kind of have this pattern that most people are in a kind of a roller coaster pattern with their health. I mean, most people fall off track or lose consistency with either their workout routine or how healthy they eat at least 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the year. Yeah. For most people, that's pretty accurate. And the problem is we're always attracted to quick fixes and instant gratification because it always seems like the easier path. There's so much out there that is convincing people that there's an easier way and a faster way. There's always more fad diets and more instant fixes that are out there that are they're said to be no work on the part of the consumer, and it's an easier path. And in order to get long-term success, just like you have to put in the work with your family, your job, your faith, you have to put in the work in your fitness. And so it's a constant, it's a little bit of work always, just to make sure that it fits in your life. You're doing the right things that help you reach your goal. And if you do that, take the time to do that, it's going to make all the parts of your life better. But if you try to fit something in that doesn't fit, then it actually hurt the other parts of your life too. So it's a good balance, trying to find what works best for each individual person.
Yeah. I think very few people would disagree with what you just said or what I said earlier, but for some reason it's human nature to give up. So for instance, we all know about the New Year's resolution problem. We're all fired up for a new eating program or we buy the gym membership, and by February, the fitness machine is just a clothes hanger, or we're not going to the gym. Why is it that we do that? Why don't New Year's resolutions work? Why don't we hang with it?
Well, I'll tell you a little secret about New Year's resolutions. All fitness professionals hate that term. And it's ironic because we love goal setting, and our job really is to help people set goals and reach their goals. But the thing about New Year's resolutions is there's this negative reputation behind it. There's this negative relationship we have with that word. And it's because of all the stats. And like every year, we know the stats, like in the middle of February, we're going to hear that it's 6 weeks in the year, 90% of people have already failed on their New Year's resolution. And they make it sound like once you failed, it's over. You might as well just start over or wait till next year, get a fresh start. And that's not, perfection has nothing to do with making fitness a priority. Just like anything in your life, failing is inevitable. You're going to fail from time to time. And that doesn't have to end your journey. That doesn't have to end your fitness story. And so that's what we hate about it, is because they make it sound like once you fail, it's over. But that failing is part of it. You just have to learn always how to get back on track. And how to recover, how to get back on track, and how to do better next time.
So when you're doing your personal training, I'm sure people come in with a lot of excuses as to why they gave up or they failed, and then they feel like they're a failure, which is absolutely not true. But what are some of the excuses people use?
Oh, I think this is one thing. We're never going to run out of excuses, right? There's no shortage of excuses. So I think if I think I've heard them all, I'll hear a new one. But whether it be I'm too busy, I'm too bored, I'm too tired, we can always come up with more excuses. And so I think I'm an avid obstacle racer. And I think part of the reason I came into that is being a leader and mentor in fitness, and realizing that, all an excuse is just an obstacle we haven't overcome yet. And so the saying is that, you can always, for any obstacle, any adversity you face, you can always either find an excuse or you can find a solution. And so for any sentence, that you could take obstacle and excuse and interchange them. They really are the same thing. But I think the biggest excuses we use, there's a solution for all of them. Like the biggest one that we probably hear is I'm too busy. And I've kind of realized in the last 5 or 6 years, or since I wrote the Make Fitness a Priority book series, that most people, when they say I'm too busy, it really means something different. It really means I'm too busy to work out like I used to. So we all have this time in our lives where we either the last time we got great results in fitness and had great results, or the time in our lives when we were in the best shape. And we kind of hold that as the bar. It's like when I first became a trainer, I know I had all this time to work out. I probably worked out 6 days a week, an hour and a half every time. And I had all this time, but I was new in town. I was new to personal training. I was single. I wasn't married yet. I didn't have a relationship yet. So my life is way different now than it was then. And so there's no way I could fit that workout routine in my life now. And if I tried to, it'd be like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just, all my other parts of my life, my relationships, my job, everything else would suffer. And so that's part of the problem, is we relate that we have a little bit of shame if we do less than when we got our best results before. And that's something we all have to realize, that doing less doesn't mean it's less of a priority. It just means we're having the awareness to see what fits in our life right now.
Excellent. When I had my office and I did nutritional counseling, people would often say that, I didn't have the time to do the eating program this week. And I would remind my clients that, we actually all have all the time in the world. You can't get any more time than what you have. It's a matter of how you choose to spend your time, right? So I think what you're saying is, look, let's elevate the priority a little bit. You might not do the workout you did when you were 21, but make it a priority and do something, and you will see improvements.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see. I mean, it might be that it doesn't make sense for you to work out 6 days a week, an hour and a half anymore, but maybe 3 days a week, 30 minutes is how fitness fits in your life. And if you put it in your life and fit it in there, then you're going to see improvements across the board. Fitness will elevate your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. In your experience, there's a lot of people into fitness out there. What makes your approach to fitness different? What do you do differently with your clients that the gym down the road is not doing that makes your approach better?
I think I help them change what they're looking for in their head. I mean, I think, like people come to me because they want to reach their short-term goals. That's what gets them to come in the door. But I help them see the bigger picture that what they want to do is going to be, they want to do something that sticks in their life long-term. Instead of getting them towards instant gratification, I help them see that is just an illusion. And it's only going to lead to temporary success. And I help them see that they need to be looking deeper. So like most fitness programs that are out there, when people ask me like what fitness program I should look for, I'm trying to get started again. What should I do? And what should I be looking out for? I always tell them 2 red flags they need to stay away from. So if the program begins with the end in mind, so like if you know on day 1 when the last day is, if it's a 30-day program, a 6-week program, or whatever it is, if you know on day 1 when the last day is, it could be very well setting you up for short-term success. Because if the last day, if you don't take the time to ask yourself what's next when that's over, then what's next is going to be nothing. And so you have to have a plan that keeps going. And the second part of that red flag is if the program is the same for everybody. So if no matter who you are, what your fitness level is, what your schedule is like, what your fitness goals are, if it's the same program for everybody and the goal is to get you as much results as fast as possible in this period of time, then it's not going to be long-term for you because it probably doesn't fit in your life. Right. It has to be individualized for you and what fits best for you. And that's what's going to help you lead you to long-term success. So everyone's so happy when they get the results, but they forget that just like the dozens of times before, the temporary results we got and how the losing those results so fast, the pain that caused. And so we want to make sure that we keep our eye on the big picture. And so what we do is something that fits long-term. And so we reap the benefits continuously long-term.
So would you say that a big part of your program is mindset, is teaching people to have the right mindset for long-term fitness?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think, mindset, nutrition, and training, they're all important. And my workbook I have a 6-week workbook that talks about those 3 things each week, but it always starts with mindset. And so for a lot of people, whether you're just getting started or you're starting over, my first job as a trainer is really to help you change your story. And so when people come to a personal trainer, normally they have a story in their head. A lot of times when they come to a personal trainer, they've already tried and failed several times on their own. And so they don't believe they can do it on their own. And they're being honest, they may not really believe they can do it at all. They just say, well, I'll give this a shot and probably won't work because nothing else has, but I'll try. And if that's the mindset, when you start, you're not going to be successful. So the first thing I have to do is help fix that story in your head, help rewrite that story that you have that says you can't do it, because it's a fictional story. Just because you didn't have results in the past does not mean you can't have results in the future. The past doesn't have to predict the future. You have to change that mindset. You have to change that story. And so that is really the first job I have, is to help people change that story in their head that says they can't do it and help them visualize success in the future.
I'm thinking about a married couple that's struggling in their marriage, and the man agrees to go to a counselor, but he's just trying to check the box on his way to divorce. He wants to be able to say, yeah, we did the counseling thing. It didn't work either. So I'm kind of thinking that people can extend that same mentality into their fitness, saying, look, this just doesn't work for me. I'll try the personal trainer, but then it's going to be, hey, you know what? I tried it all. That just doesn't work for me. Do you see that? Do you see people with that attitude?
That's a really good analogy. I've never heard anyone say that with the divorce, but that is exactly what it is. Sometimes we have a predetermined outcome in our head already, and so we have to change that story. So if you already think if you can't see it happening, then it's not going to happen. And so that's a very important job of anyone that's a coach, is to help people, well, no matter what it is. Whereas for me, it's fitness, but I have to help them see that what the hard work they're putting in, the stuff they're putting in, the time they're putting in, that it can lead to success. Yeah. And so that visualizing success in the future, I've done that for every goal I've ever had, whether it be a big fitness goal or just a business goal. And but that's a habit that you have to get into if you want to reach the finish line and be successful.
Yeah, the winning mindset. That's really huge. Would you say that, do you talk to people about their life purpose? Do you ask people what's really important to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely do. I haven't quite said it quite like that, but I think for the fitness world, it's about your why. And so that's the way that's the language I use all the time. And just you have to understand why your goal is important to you. So when the going gets tough and you don't feel like doing the work, you don't want to make the sacrifices, you have to understand why you're doing it, or you won't be successful. And so, and when you ask yourself what your goals are, if someone asks you what your fitness goals are, the first answer is always a little too vague. You have to dig deeper and understand, why is this really important to you? So I have a couple examples that are really important. So like one of them, I have a client who we'd go on a ski trip every year. She'd go on a ski trip with her family every year, and they went on several years without going. And so when they went on the next time, it was the first time that her grandkids were going skiing. And so they were so little, they didn't even have poles yet.
Yeah.
And just the first time going down the mountain, this lady's knees, her lower back, everything just had trouble. And that was the only time she ended up going down the mountain the whole time. And so she had to just sit in the clubhouse, sit at the base at the bottom, and watch that from down there. And that just, her why is she wants to be a very active grandma. And so that vacation changed everything, because she really understood why it's important to her to be in shape. She wants to be an active grandma with her grandkids. From that moment, everything changed for her, and she lost a lot of weight. She didn't have to take any diabetes shots anymore. She got all her mobility back, and is an active person after that. And so that's just one of many, but you have to be able to dig deep. You have to understand why this is really important to you. And that is your fuel whenever the going gets tough.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I often share this quote on the podcast. It's from Michael Hyatt, and he often says, people will lose their way when they lose their why. And of course, the opposite is true as well. If you know what your why is, you'll find your way. And it sounds like that's what that gal did. And that's really excellent stuff. Really good, powerful motivator. Mm-hmm. Are you into, what's your approach to fitness? Are you into HIIT training, cardio, weight training? What's your emphasis? What do you recommend?
I think this is different for everybody. And so some people have kind of a preconception of what personal training is. I know my dad, I had to be a trainer for 10 years before I would get him to let me train him, because he had this perception in his head that personal training meant bodybuilding, and that's what it was. But for him, personal training, his goals are more about just being active and living pain-free. Being able to get up and down from the ground without pain, being able to go up and down stairs without pain, being able to be active without pain. And so some people, their goal is about being able to move just like they did when they were younger without any pain. Sometimes it's about having more energy. Sometimes it's about dealing with their anxiety and stress. Sometimes it's about losing weight. But it's different for everybody. And so there's you shouldn't have a preconception of what fitness is. It's just about whatever it is that reaches your goals. So I have a freebie I know we'll mention today, but at beatyourexcuses.com, that website, you can get a free copy of my first book. But that is one thing I mentioned in that book is that, that fitness is different for everybody. And that's why it has to be individualized for you. And you can't just find a program that you pay for 30 days. And when it's not customized to what your individual goals and what your individual needs are.
Excellent. Share that website again.
beatyourexcuses.com.
Excellent. Sounds really good. So speaking of customization, what would you say to someone who's tried all the fad diets? They've tried keto, they've tried paleo, they've tried veganism, and they just feel like they failed with them all. What would you say to that person?
I'd say welcome to the club. So I think part of the reason I'm so good at what I do and helping people is because I've made all these mistakes before. I've done all these things before, and I've had to learn the hard way. And so we kind of have to learn from our own mistakes sometimes as human. But if you have the right people in front of you, the right teachers, you can learn from their mistakes. And so I want to be that person. But I've done all those things myself. And as humans, we are always looking for the easier way.
Right.
And so there's so many things out there that are promising an easier way. And there's so many Instagram and social media highlight reels out there that aren't showing any of the hard work, or they're just showing we don't even know if that's temporary success that they're showing, right. But it's a success that they've done. They found something that works for them, but we don't know. But the thing is, just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Just because something that worked for you in the past doesn't mean it's going to work for you now. And so it's all about figuring out what is best for you and what works best for you right now.
Well, I'm a certified nutritional counselor, and I'm a strong believer in biochemical individuality. One man's food is another man's poison, Lucretius said, a Roman philosopher. And I totally believe that's true. Some people will do great on steak and eggs for breakfast. Other people will crash and burn on it. So do you go through that with clients? Do you help coach them through finding out what foods work for them, what meals work for them, what type of eating?
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely, sometimes it's kind of a weird way to think about it. Sometimes you have to think of yourself as your own science experiment. I mean, you don't know, and some things you don't know if it's going to work for you until you try. Yeah. Like my wife has had all kinds of food issues or food allergies and food restrictions she's had to deal with. And now she's gone through all kinds of elimination diets. And now we're trying to reintroduce food after some gut healing. And so she's been allergic to eggs and had to have eggs out of her life for 10 years. Her little sister has celiac. So she doesn't have celiac, but she's very sensitive to gluten, probably like right at the fence before you get celiac. And so she's had to deal with lots of things, and through taking the right steps, being able to now 10 years later reintroduce foods that she couldn't have 10 years ago. And so, I mean, it's really is about, and it's an ongoing science experiment. You have to figure out what works best for you. And it takes being aware. It takes being, so like I always tell people, like sometimes it's tough when you have you're never going to feel great every workout. I always tell my clients that. So some days they'll come in and they may feel like a superhero, but other days for some reason they'll have no energy, and there just won't be one thing that sticks out as a reason why. But whether you have a good day, whether you have a high energy day, where you have a low energy day, it takes being observant and understanding, so what did I do before? What could have led to me feeling this great? What did I do before? What did I eat today? How did I sleep? What could have led to me feeling great or feeling bad? And it's a little bit of trial and error, and you being self-aware of learning what is the best recipe for you feeling your best.
Absolutely. I've got some comments on that, but I want to go back and revisit a word that you mentioned earlier, an elimination diet. Why don't you speak to the Natural Nation, the listeners, about what exactly an elimination diet is, how do you implement it, and what does it do for you?
Well, my wife just went through a really tough elimination diet. We did a food sensitivity test, and she found all the foods that she's very sensitive to, as far as whether it would make her feel sick. We had a doctor work close with us when we went through it, the whole thing.
Okay.
But this is something she's dealt with for a long time. But basically it's kind of like the Whole30. If your listeners are familiar with the Whole30, they have lots of books on the Whole30 now, and they're a program that's learned from their past mistakes, and they've made themselves better and better and better every year. But it's not a weight loss program that people need to know that, but it's to help you figure out what foods may be causing you problems. So if you're feeling bloated all the time, or if you're getting inflammation all the time, or if you're getting stomach pain every time after you eat, that's not a normal thing.
Right.
I know my wife, she had a problem with eggs for the longest time, but they never could figure it out why. Her mom eventually just said that she always knew that if she gave her eggs, she'd get in a fight at school. So she had a bad reaction to eggs, but they never really could figure out. They didn't really, for the longest time, understand that it was a food allergy.
Yeah.
But the food sensitivity diet is basically just eliminating foods that you could be sensitive to, that could be causing problems, getting them out of like the Whole30 does, is 30 days of getting rid of the food. And then you're reintroducing one at a time. And so so you don't want to introduce more than one at a time, because you want to be able to have a valid test. And so you introduce one. So we went 40 days, I think, without all these foods. And so we had a lot of foods we counted out, and then we were able to introduce one. And it was really interesting. We got to introduce, we went for it and with eggs, because that was one on the test that's saying we could reintroduce. And so we had one egg for breakfast. And then if there was no problems, so we had one egg for lunch. If there was no problems, we had one egg for dinner. And then we wait 4 days if there's no problems. And then we do the same thing again. And I mean, so after not being able to have eggs since like 2013, we were able to reintroduce eggs after doing this elimination diet. So it's incredible.
That's a fantastic win. And she did it. She had to be patient, right? And she had to strengthen her system. I'm sure you took some probiotics and those kinds of things to help heal the gut. And she healed enough to the point where she wasn't reacting the way she was. That's a great story. You know, what I like to tell people about the elimination diet is you want to do it for a long enough time to where it's like a lake that's in calm wind and it just smooths out to be a glassy surface on the water. And then when you throw the smallest pebble in there, you'll get some ripples. So the same is true when you start reintroducing those troublesome foods. You feel better, your inflammation's down, maybe your energy's better, maybe your elimination is better. And then you say, okay, well, I suspect I had a problem with gluten. So I'm going to try a slice of pizza. And let's go for it. And then you said another important point. You waited 4 days for the reaction because the reaction is not always immediate. It could be, but it's often delayed. It might be 2-3 days down the road where you find you experience the reaction. Am I right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of testing that comes in. So that's why you want to be very careful. You want to make sure you follow it to a T. Yeah. And then when you reintroduce it, you're just reintroducing one thing. You don't want to have anything that could any other variables in there that could be taken away from the test results. Right. But I tell you, it was a really cool thing. After me and my wife have been together for 6 years now, but she's an amazing cook and she loves to bake. And so even though she's been without gluten, eggs, and dairy for the longest time, she's been able to make amazing, like, baked goods and things like that, and which I love. But my birthday is coming up at the end of this month, and she always makes a cinnamon roll cake. It's something we created over the years that I just love. But this will be the first time since we've been together that there's going to be eggs in this recipe. So I can't imagine how much better it's going to be. Cool. But yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Eggs add a lot of flavor, man. They really do. But they are one of the troublesome foods, and a lot of people have trouble digesting it. For sure. My daughter asked me this morning, "Hey, Dad, why is it that you can't digest corn? As much as I chew it up, when it comes out the other end, I still see the whole kernels." That's because corn is hard to digest. You know, it really is. And eggs is one of those foods as well. And like you said, you want to introduce one food at a time. And I use the example of pizza. So if you were eliminating gluten and dairy, you wouldn't have the pizza because it'd be more than one food at once. You just try the slice of bread and go with that. Chad, I've listened to you speak, and I've heard some of the things you talk about, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you believe that human beings are more than just a body. Would you speak to that for a minute?
Yeah. For fitness, I mean, the way I hear that, it makes me think that there's way more reasons for fitness other than just what's physical and what's on the exterior. I think a big reason why for me that I'm attracted to fitness, I was an athlete first, and then I got into fitness because I enjoyed exercise. But I realized eventually that my bigger reason that I'm attracted to fitness and exercise is what it does for me emotionally and mentally, how it helps me control my anxiety, how it helps me control my energy, how it helps me control my depression or anything like that. And so I'm definitely an introvert. I'm definitely an introverted person, and I went through a lot of social anxiety before I realized that it was something I could really kind of do about it. But I'm also someone who craves being a leader and being able to speak and make an impact as a speaker. And to be able to handle the anxiety that could get in my way on that, taking good care of myself with exercise, taking good care of myself with what I put in my body, that's something I had to learn is so important. But for me, we are way more of we are way more than just a body, like you said. We're also a mind, and the what we're capable of. And so, fitness for me, it's way more about making myself look better, but it's about making myself feel better.
Yeah, and what affects us on a mental, emotional level will ultimately affect us physically, and the same is true in the other direction. What affects us physically will affect us mental emotional level. So, you can't separate the two. And I would add a third ingredient there, that we are spirit as well. And all three parts to a human being are interconnected and interdependent. What affects one will by necessity alter the others for good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the mind and being able to be our best self, it starts by getting your mind right, for sure. I mean, everyone, there's a debate in fitness. Where does the success start? Is it in the kitchen? Is it in the gym? I think it starts with getting your mind right. I mean, just Excellent. Like most things.
That's really good stuff, Chad. Mm-hmm. So, Chad, before we wrap things up, what would you say to someone as a parting thought that you want to leave with them?
The last thing I'd like for someone to take away, if you're someone who's trying to make fitness a permanent part of your life, then one thing that you need to know going into it is that there's nothing about making fitness a priority in your life that means you have to be perfect. And if that's what you can't strive for that, because we're human and we're going to make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen all the time. Whenever you fail, that doesn't end your fitness journey. That doesn't end your goal. What you have to remember is it's what you do next that counts. So failing's part of your fitness story, fitness journey. It doesn't have to stop you. It doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond and how you get back on track.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to get started. So if you're getting started or starting over, the website, beatyourexcuses.com. That's the best way to get started with me. You'll be able to get a free copy of my first book, and also 5 free classes on my online platform is on there also. But that's the best place to get started with me. Make fitness a priority. That's where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, both. I love helping people figure out how fitness best fits in their life. So if you had a takeaway today, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Chad at ChadAustinFitness.com would be the best way to reach out to me.
Got it. All right, Chad, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Chad Austin. He's a real pro, and he had a lot of great pointers for a fitness regimen and sticking with it for the long haul. And by the way, if you're ever looking to search for an episode on the website, davidsandstrom.com, just go to the podcast page, scroll down to the search bar, and type in the episode number inside of parentheses, and you'll find that episode. Or, of course, if you know the guest name, you can search that way as well. And one last thing is, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you tell somebody about it? I would really appreciate you spreading the word. You could send somebody a text message with the link, or you can use the social share buttons on the website. I would appreciate that very much. For more, go to davidsandstrom.com. In the show notes for each episode, you'll find links to all the resources that were mentioned, as well as a full transcript with timestamps that you can download for free. In addition, I always include a content upgrade with each show, which is a free download that is designed to help you go deeper with that subject. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll talk with you next week. Be blessed.